Good afternoon, Sesshin Warriors. Thanks for doing this. Be proud of yourself for doing this. And let's keep on going. I wanted to once again remind us of what Sason said, that we try to come to a Dharma talk with the same spirit as we do in Zazen, being totally present and letting go of every moment. So I hope all of these words that are about to be said get washed away immediately. So yesterday, I think I ended by saying something like, we were talking about, letting the heat kill you with hot and letting the cold kill you with cold. Really being able to die in thusness, in the moment. And so I think I ended by saying, let's go die together and experience that glorious life. And I just want to be clear that it's obviously not glorious to go through like that. This dying process that we're embarking on is not always glorious. It's not always pleasant. But really what I meant to say was the life that comes out of that death of the small self, that death of separation, the life that comes out of that can be glorious and very freeing. And that takes faith. That takes faith when you're in the middle of sesshin and your body hurts and all of my stuff comes up, all of my shadows, all of my regrets, all of the samsara gets highlighted. It's hard to see where the glorious life can come out of. And it does take a certain amount of faith, right? Because there's a lot of doubt. I know it. I hear it from almost everyone here in interview, coming in and saying, what the fuck? When does this stop? When can I stop my karma, basically? That's the doubt. How come I've been sitting all this time and still nothing changes? How come I do all this sesshin and still my life doesn't go right? That's the doubt. But really having faith that if you stick with it, we can be reborn over and over and over again. And then we were looking at this precious mirror of Samadhi verse or poem. And I'm going to try to get through a whole bunch. It's kind of long. I doubt we'll be able to finish it in the next couple of days. So I'll just try to do a really perfunctory job of racing through it. And if anything sticks and you find it inspiring, that's great. And if not, I don't know, take a nap. So where we left off, he says, or they say, we don't necessarily know who wrote this. Anonymous offering to thousands of years of practitioners. In the darkest night, it is perfectly clear. In the light of dawn, it is hidden. So that's striking. How can something be clear when it's so dark? And then when light is shown upon it, can't see it anymore. It's a nice place to look at. And of course, this darkness does come up a lot in Zen writings and koans and teachings and things. But I think for these purposes, It's nice to think of the darkness as total emptiness, total letting go, not knowing. Um, yeah, no separation. Not a single thing exists. Just thusness. And so, from that perspective, that darkness, where everything totally drops off, um, we get clarity, right? It's the light of our ideas and concepts. That's what ideas and concepts are. It's shining a light on things. It separates things. It helps us understand, which we need to do. If we didn't have that light, then we wouldn't survive. Um, but in Zazen and with the support of the Sangha, we can really just kind of lean in and welcome that total darkness, letting go of everything. Um, and yeah, the clarity from that is very powerful. And then the light comes and we have to wake up and brush our teeth and make it to Zazen and, you know, say Koren and Shoyu and Kyoshin and Ari and like do all this separation. And then that clarity of thusness gets hidden temporarily. Kind of. That's wrong. Anyway, going on, it is a standard for all things. And of course, as we go on, they keep saying it. And it refers to the first sentence, which is the Dharma of thusness is intimately transmitted. So it, the Dharma of thusness, the teaching of everything in the entire universe contained in just this, just right now in this moment. So it is a standard for all things. That's interesting. That's misleading, I think, right? That's such an easy trap into spiritual bypassing. Oh, well, if I just let everything go and suppress my feelings and don't take care of my karma and don't help anybody and I just exist in the moment. Well, that's it, but that's not right. I think maybe what that means is that it's present in all things. To say it's a standard kind of puts a value on it. So that might be just a weird translation because it's the absolute valuelessness, thusness. So it is present in all things. Every moment, every emotion, every moment of clarity, and every moment of obscurity is thusness. Its use removes all suffering. It's kind of why we're here, right? To remove all suffering. And of course, in the darkest night, when the Dharma of thusness is perfectly clear, there's no suffering. I think Sason said that in one of her talks. That when we can really cultivate an intimacy with this darkness, total emptiness, vastness, boundlessness, then even if I'm unsheltered on the street, there is no suffering. But having that experience is very difficult. Can't force it. Although it is not constructed, it is not beyond words. So this is kind of a nice hearkening back to when they said just to portray it in literary form is to stain it with defilement, right? So that's important. You can't really get the heart of thusness or awakening through words. And yet, as he said, even though it's not constructed, right? You can't construct it through being clever. Or for those of you working on koans, it's so tempting to construct an answer. Well, I know I'm supposed to be it, and this other koan that was like it had this answer, and so if that's, then I should just say that, and then, anytime we try to construct, even if you construct the quote-unquote right answer to the koan, it comes through so clearly that it's been constructed and it's not authentic. It's not alive. So yeah, he says, even though it isn't constructed, it isn't beyond words, right? Like we said, it is a standard for all things. It's present in all things, even your words, even your ideas and concepts, even your suffering. So to say, well, I'm just not going to say anything because words can't touch it, that's also wrong, right? It's a beautiful way of not holding on to anything. The minute we hold on to any teaching, any understanding, we're in trouble. So yeah, it can't be truly communicated or felt through words, and it's completely in every word we say. So how do you reconcile that? Like facing a precious mirror, form and reflection behold each other. It's like the second rank. Tozan had 5 ranks that we study in our curriculum. And in the second rank of the cyclical ranks, anyway, it says, a sleepy-eyed grandma encounters herself in an ancient mirror. So what's that ancient mirror? How can you see yourself reflected in it? How can I see myself reflected in everything? Form and reflection behold each other, right? Not that the form beholds its reflection. That's what we think of when we look in the mirror, right? I am viewing my reflection. But what a great little use of words here. Form and reflection behold each other. It's the perfect way of saying that this ancient mirror of our life is totally one. We are reflected in it. It is reflected in us, to the point where which is the mirror, which is the form, totally fades away. Just like that silver bowl filled with snow. Where does one stop and the other begin? That's a glorious life. And then it says, you are not it, but in truth, it is you. Yikes. That's so hard to see. Man, you are not it. I am not the Dharma of thusness. The minute I say, I am, I'm separating. So yeah, I am the Buddha. And that's what we say in the Gate of Sweet Nectar. I am the Buddhas and they are me. But now this poem says, you are not the Buddhas, but they are you. Which is, I think, just taking it a step further. So get out of this concept of, I am the Buddhas. Don't force that. right? That kind of can become like a mantra, like I am Buddha, I am Buddha, I am Buddha, and then it gets stale. So drop that and let the Buddhas be you. You are not it. But in fact, whether you know it or not, whether you chant it or not, whether you believe it or not, whether you see it or not, the fact is this Dharma of thusness is you. That's what your life is. And as the Buddha said, we don't see it because of our upside down thinking. Or, as I'll say later, our inverted views, our separation. It's really hard to see that the Buddhas are me. Like a newborn child, it is fully endowed with 5 aspects. Like a newborn child, gloriously reborn every moment. It's kind of nice. I don't know, it's kind of like an idea to hold on to. Isn't that really sweet that like every moment we could be like a newborn? Everything just brand new and fresh and without association and without conditioning. And it is fully endowed with 5 aspects. I'm not sure. This might be something totally different. So, like I said, let all of this wash away, please. But I think those 5 aspects are our 5 perceptions, our 5 senses. We see things, we hear things. So, I mean, that may or may not be right, but I think it works. Even this thusness, this total darkness, this dying into the present moment, it still is very much present. It's our life. It's what we see and smell and taste and touch, hear. It's not separate from that. Fully endowed with all of our perceptions. And then it says, no going, no coming, no arising, no abiding. No going, no coming. It's like all those koans that start with the teacher saying, where have you come from? It's almost like a test. Now that would be a little bit stinky and overwrought to like test each other in that way. But back in the day they did, to see, do you really get no coming, no going? No here, no there. No you to be going or coming in the first place. Just thus. Same with no arising, no abiding, nothing to hold on to. And then it says in quotation marks, ba ba wa wa, is anything said or not? I love that. I think that's kind of like, this newborn baby that says ba ba wa wa, all the way up to I have a dream speech, or I don't know, a Mary Oliver poem. I don't know, some kind of wonderful piece of literature that we love and admire. Is anything said or not? In this total darkness, this total emptiness, where the meaning does not reside in words, is anything said or not? And if you answer yes or no, I think we should relook at that. When a baby says ba ba wa wa, man, that can convey the greatest joy we've ever witnessed in our entire life. It could convey a moment of intimacy. And all these words are empty. In the end, it says nothing, for the words are not yet right. Yeah, so even the greatest wisdom, even the deepest intimacy, even grand joy that's communicated, it's all impermanent. All our words, all our actions, it's just wind. It's another awesome koan where the teacher says, "This is blown about like the wind." All of it. And that's the magic of thusness. Seeing the total airiness of everything, all the meaning and the import that we give to things. It's good to do that. That's how we serve people. That's how we manifest the darkness. But that's why the three tenets are so great, right? Because we start with non-knowing, this thusness, this darkness, and then we bear witness using our 5 aspects. And then out of that comes action to be of service. And of course, that's a cycle. All 3 of those constantly, almost, I always picture like electrons in an atom, just constantly swirling about each other. Next part we can go through pretty quickly because I really don't know. The poem says, "In the hexagram, double fire, when the main and subsidiary lines are transposed, piled up they become 3, the permutations make 5. All I know is that this is a reference to I Ching, which is an ancient Chinese fortune-telling tarot card kind of what should I do thing. I don't know. Does anyone know about I Ching that can say a little more about it?
Double fire. So yeah, there's 64 hexagrams made up of yin lines and yang lines. And so...
But just in general, what does I Ching do?
Oh, yeah. It's like a sort of divination tool for seeking answers to questions, but the underlying premise is all about that everything is always changing. Mm. So it was originally kind of a political and philosophical tool for how do we deal with change.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So not so far from tarot cards. It's not a terrible metaphor, but thank you for clarifying. So yeah, I don't know anything about this, and I assume most of us who have been reading this 3 days a week for the last 3 months are not quite as knowledgeable as Ari. But it kind of doesn't matter. I think the point is this wholeness, becoming 3 piled up, they make 5. 3 is kind of a whole number, 5 aspects, but just pointing to our life. Our life is it, I think. And it says, like the taste of the 5-flavored herb, like the 5-pronged vajra. Again, some kind of esoteric references I don't know, but it kind of doesn't matter. That's why these koans and these teachings and these readings are so powerful, because there are these weird references. I shouldn't say weird. There are these specific references to things that you don't really need to know about. Obviously, if you do, it might, be helpful. But the 5-flavored herb, can you imagine one herb that has 5 flavors? Can you imagine one person that contains the entire universe? One breath that contains the entire universe? 5-pronged Vajra, Vajra meaning wisdom, 5 wisdoms, 5 Buddha families, maybe. This thusness, just this, letting go of everything else, contains every wisdom. What does that mean? How do you know? Check it out for yourself. That's all I can say. Wondrously embraced within the complete 5-flavored herb, 5-pronged Vajra, thusness, totally complete. Wondrously embraced within the complete, drumming and singing begin together. And I think we talked about this recently. It just reminds me of when we do service and we always introduce the chant, right? Enmei juku kanangyo. And then the chant leader has to start the chant. Kan. And at the same time, the person playing the mukugyo has to hit the mukugyo. And as you'll see, if you come to service, that very rarely happens. And if you really look at it, and especially if you, I don't know, like in my experience with recording and playing music, to start together is almost an impossible feat, especially when playing live, right? If you're in the computer and you're doing digital editing, you can actually have 2 sounds start at the almost the same exact moment. But it's basically, especially in the 9th century or whenever this was written, 7th century, pretty much impossible to start together perfectly on time. But with the Dharma of thusness, when we're totally embraced within not knowing, no self, then even staggered things, even disharmony, even when things don't go the way I want them to, it is perfectly on time. Perfect just the way it is, no matter how staggered it is, how jolty it could be. And then they implore us, they say, penetrate the source and travel the pathways. I think that's what we're doing here. When you sit Zazen, are you trying to penetrate the source of your life? Penetrate the source of your suffering and the suffering of others? It's a pretty hefty exercise, but I encourage everyone to ponder that. Embrace the territory and treasure the roads. Ooh, that's hard. I spend most of my life rejecting my territory and lamenting the roads. I wish I had it different. I wish we had more people here. I wish I could close and open the yurt with the remote control. I wish, all these things we wish. But man, if I could just embrace the territory and treasure the roads I'm on, how great would that be? He says, they say, you would do well to respect this. Do not neglect it. Can't say much more on top of that. Natural and wondrous, it is not a matter of delusion or enlightenment. Man, this is so important. This is so important. I think if you approach your spiritual life with the aim of not being this, but being that, you will run into trouble. So that's contradictory because I just said, man, I wish I embraced the roads more or treasured the roads more. But how do you do that? If I'm lamenting my roads, how do I treasure them? Do I say, oh, I shouldn't be lamenting, I should be treasuring, I'm going to treasure? No, that's forcing. That's constructing, like they say earlier. How you treasure the roads when you lament them is to truly lament, really go into that lamentation. Is that a word? Lamentation? Mm-hmm. Lamenting, yeah. Yeah, it's not a matter of delusion or enlightenment. It's not a matter of don't do this, do that. It's not a matter of, oh, once I get rid of this and become more that, then I'll be. No, it's not about that. It's about letting the cold kill you with cold. Stop thinking about not doing this and doing that, being a certain kind of way. Within causes and conditions, time and season, it is serene and illuminating. Yeah, so within causes and conditions, that's so great, right? Because there's so much talk, especially in the early Buddhism, the early teachings, there's so much talk about leaving samsara, ending karma, entering into this other place of nirvana. And what Zen does, I think, is just make it really clear. And I think the Buddha said the same thing. If you really look at those early teachings, I think they're saying the same thing, that it doesn't mean that we leave our delusion or that we get rid of causes and conditions so that when my mother dies, I'm just like, oh, well, no conditions. I've heard Dharma teachers and leaders say that, and I think it's so tragic. I remember hearing one teacher say, a real Buddhist you can tell is enlightened because they don't feel anything and they're just neutral all the time. And I just think that is so damaging and just inaccurate. I think you can maybe go run away to a far off monastery and have like very little stimulation and just kind of get dull. That's possible, and that's fine. That's cool. But I don't think that's what awakening is at all. At all. It's within causes and conditions. Yakujo's fox very clearly stated. Yakujo's fox is a koan. And the monk gets turned into a fox because he says enlightenment means I avoid cause and effect. And because they said that, they were turned into a fox, forced to live hundreds of lives as a beast. And then when they hear the teaching of there's no avoiding cause and effect, enlightenment is not, it's not avoid, what is it? Evade. Enlightenment does not evade cause and effect. All of a sudden, he leaves the fox body and they become an enlightened being. So within causes and conditions, we can end causes and conditions. Go in. So minute it enters where there is no gap. So vast it transcends dimension. Again, if you think it looks like anything, if you think it sounds like or presents itself as any kind of thing, you'll run into problems. It's the tiniest thing, it's the biggest thing, and everything in between. It's your jealousy, it's your greed. When you are greedy, let the whole universe be greedy. The Buddhas are you. Let the Buddhas be greedy with you. And we'll stop with a hair's breadth deviation and you are out of tune. Yeah, so a hair's breadth, right? Picture a hair. So small. The minute I separate myself from whatever is, the minute I think I can tell where the snow and the silver bowl differ, we're out of tune. But in line with what he's saying, out of tune is it too. Right? Isn't that so freeing? I don't know. I just got this feeling of like relief. You can be out of tune. That's Buddha. You can resent people. You can cling. You can desire and crave. That's Buddha. And it also causes suffering. So we look at it. What is this Buddha about? Can you be one with being out of tune? So out of tune that you die in the out of tuneness. Then what does it sound like? Let's go find out. Just got about 30 hours left to figure it all out. Just kidding. Thank you all for making such a beautiful, strong container. Let's go hard.